best city in the world. I'm sure by now you're growing accustomed to your new reality, that you are completely stuck in quarantine. If that's not scary enough, I'm here to scare you with some even further news. After you get out of quarantine and you're thinking of frolicking through the streets, smelling the sweet smell of urine mixed with marijuana, mixed with brake dust, New York is not the same city that you may have been expecting or may be used to. Because many of the things that we know and love have been shut down by COVID-19. But never fear, I'm here to introduce you to a few helpful substitutes for the things that you really appreciate about the city. So, for example, maybe you are hoping to scurry down to Coney Island right after getting out of quarantine. Well, I hate to tell you, but the amusement park is shut down. So instead of riding on a roller coaster, how about turning your everyday commute into the thrill ride you always hoped it could be? Just sit right down, lift your hands up in the air, and give a little woohoo! I promise, no one at all will think you're crazy. Or maybe you were really looking forward to the beach. Well, you know, you don't want to go all the way down there, and so you're thinking, what can I do for the beach? Well, if it's raining one day, maybe find the biggest puddle you can, go splash around in it for a while. Grab some gravel off the street, build yourself a little sand castle. Heck, if you get really excited, you can take your volleyball, throw it in the Hudson, and jump in after it. Don't do that. Or maybe you're sitting there saying, Micah, I enjoy the simpler things. I just want to spend my Saturday afternoons reading in a great New York coffee shop. Well, you know, there's no indoor dining right now, so I've got a 3-step solution for you. Step number 1, make yourself a cup of coffee and grab a book. Step number 2, go down to your building's utility room to really get that industrial chic vibe. Step number 3, throw $5 into the trash to get that real New York City experience. And if you're missing your complimentary paper straw, you can grab a wet and used napkin. That will be equally as flavorful and functional. Or maybe you're like me and you're thinking, oh, Broadway, it's shut down until 2021. Where will I get my theater that I need? Well, I've got a couple options for that too. Number 1, you can really just annoy your roommates by belting the entirety of Dear Evan Hansen in the shower every night. I know you have enough raw angst pent up to really sell that. Or maybe you're a fan of other late night hosts like James Corden and want to do a whole Crosswalk the Musical on your way to school. Or, if you're a fan of the classics, you could turn every altercation with your roommates into a little bit of a Shakespearean soliloquy. So, for example, say one of your roommates is leaving their dishes in the sink every single day. You might want to walk up to them and just say, "Thy provocations pile up profusely, like an ever-rising Babel to the heavens. And so I decry you, sir, and your godless ways. I gnash, I burn, I boil, I rage. Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow, you say, I'll clean them up tomorrow. But these are just words, 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 words. What are your words? But a husk of corn blown and tossed by the wind here and there, falling into a blazing fire or into a raging river. Would that river course over thy dishes and cleanse them clean as the Chrysler's crown." Or maybe it's a Saturday and you're feeling like, I want to go get brunch with the girls. Well, instead of spending $43.21 on 1 egg, half a piece of toast, and orange juice, you could just not do that. In the end, though, you're not really here for the experiences or the shows or the restaurants. You're here because deep down you think, I deserve to be here. You think you're a world changer. You want to come here and shake the world. You want to be valedictorian and run 10 student orgs. You're the best. And you're sitting there thinking, Micah, it can't all be about my ego. No, it is. But that should be encouraging to you because guess what? That's the one thing that no one can take away from you. Not COVID, not our dear Mayor Cuomo. No, that stays with you everywhere you go. Speaking of egos, today we have the Reverend Dr. Drew Johnson on the show. Now you might be thinking, he's not egotistical. He's not. He might be the one chance you have of removing that ego from you. He will shred all your preconceptions in his Hebrew Lit class. I hope you're looking forward to that, and I'll turn it over to Catherine now for our first interview.
Well, hello everyone. I am really excited to introduce today's guest. Please join me in welcoming Associate Professor of Biblical and Theological Studies, the Reverend Dr. Drew Johnson. Whoa, calm down, y'all. Show some respect.
Wow.
I know. We're gonna get through this together.
Anyways.
It's fine. I'm so sorry about that, Dr.
It's
Johnson.
okay. It happens everywhere I go.
Understandable.
People are
understandable.
silently booing me when I walk in the classroom, so
Well, how do you feel about that? Like, how are you right now?
I'm in an okay place now. I'm getting used to it. So.
Yeah. And I know you quarantined this year, just like many of our lovely students. How was that? Any fun hobbies? Vices?
I took up excessive eating was a hobby. I put on a COVID 19 pounds.
Yes.
So actually getting into these pants today was something of a joy. But yeah, I'm losing it now. I'm hitting
Right
aerobics
before
harder.
school
Yeah,
starts.
yeah. Trying to look good for the students. It's all for the students.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Everything for the students. You really
Everything for
care
the
about us.
students. Yes.
Yes. All right. So you're also director for the Center of Hebraic Thought. You want
Yes.
to tell us a little bit about that? Share with the
Yeah,
students?
Center for Hebraic Thought is a big fancy title for caring about what the biblical authors think more than what we think.
A concept. A concept.
So yeah, it's just getting people to actually think about how the biblical authors thought about the world and finding that in the biblical text and then caring about it, maybe more than traditions or theologies, and then revisiting traditions and theologies
Nice.
according to what the biblical authors thought. Yeah, it's simple.
And are any new projects we can look forward to? Look out for?
Yeah, I'm very excited. We have a new web magazine called The Biblical Mind launching, and we're going to have a series of essays by scholars on what the daily lives of men and women were like in the Iron Age and in Greco-Roman world. And so thinking about what gender was like, how it was experienced, what kind of work different people did and why, and how does that help us understand what the biblical authors say.
Wow, that really
So-
goes along with thinking about our modern context
Yes.
and trying to apply
Yes.
it then.
Should be directly applicable.
Awesome. Well, I know, Dr. Johnson, there's kind of a joke in the student body that you have lived many lives.
It is a joke.
We've heard we've heard a
life is
lot
a
of little
joke, yes.
snippets.
Yeah.
So you know what? I just want to talk a little bit about your degrees.
Okay.
I know a lot of people think you've just been on this theology train forever. Is there any things that might be surprising to the student body?
I think I talk about them mostly in class. Every degree I've done has in some way contributed to working here at King's. Maybe not the degree in electronics and radar, but
Is that your bachelor's?
no, that was my associate's. But I originally was going to go into electrical engineering, and then I hit the math classes and decided that I was not going to go into electrical engineering. So I would have done well in King's on that front.
A good King
Yeah, it
student
would have been
does
a good,
avoid math.
a good King student there. And then I was an education major and switched to psychology and was going to do research psychology. And because of all those changes in degrees, I ended up with 215 undergraduate credit hours,
Wow.
which was fun. And then I ended up going to seminary because a friend talked me into it instead. And I didn't even know what a seminary was or what it did when I went to seminary. So it was like I'd never taken a humanities class in my life until I went to seminary, which is essentially mostly liberal arts education. So it was an adventure, to say the least. Yeah.
And would you recommend going into grad school blindly like that?
If God calls you to do it, yes. Otherwise, run like a child from a fire.
Love that. Love that.
Okay.
Take that to heart, kids. All right. Well, Dr. Johnson, you've said some really interesting things in your class.
Thank
and in
you.
fact, there
Oh.
is a student here at the King's College who kept up a Twitter thread of a
Yeah.
lot of these statements. So shout out to Anne Marie Hogan. You're out there.
I think a lot of people, I see people when I say something that I know is a little off the
Yeah.
ranch, I often see people writing in their margins. And I'm like, oh, I hope that doesn't go on Twitter.
Well, we want to help the freshmen and the first years get
Okay.
used to, your vibe, your language.
My vibe.
So we actually have an iPad hidden
Oh.
behind those pillows.
Okay.
Yeah, if you just move them.
Yep, got it.
We got some tweets
Okay.
of some wonderful phrases you've said. So I'm going to pull up these tweets on my phone too.
This is-
All right. So I just want you to go through them. Maybe give us a little context.
How do you turn?
Yeah. All right, Dr. Johnson, now that you have that iPad, let's just go ahead and read the first tweet.
Okay, it says, talking about his wife, that's in brackets, for a first wife, she's been wonderful.
Yeah.
That is true.
Your wife has been wonderful. Good
Yeah,
to know.
and she is my first wife. That's how I introduce her at parties. This is my first wife, so
I'm sure she loves that.
she does.
Next tweet.
I know some of you can't hear that without imagining a pickle saying that.
A pickle.
Yeah,
Who is the
I
pickle?
always say this, and nobody gets the joke. Is is on VeggieTales. Whenever somebody calls Larry a pickle, he says, "I'm a cucumber." So I'm always waiting for a student to yell back, "He's a cucumber." From VeggieTales. Yeah.
VeggieTales.
Yeah.
Great. Horrible source of information.
I'm going to skip one here. So
Okay.
I know exactly what this is referring to. Well, I love Genesis and I love sandwiches, and I've never heard of this death sandwich before. I use that as it's a foil example of a mathematician who thinks he's cracked Genesis and thinks there's a death sandwich in there. It's a literary idea. He's wrong, but that's okay.
A death sandwich.
Death sandwich in Genesis.
Okay.
This is true. I said, quote, "It's kings. I can't presume that people will know the order of the Gospels." The next one is, well, crap, now what do I do with my strong belief that has no biblical basis?
This is a staple of your class.
Yeah. Yeah, this is me pretending that I am in the student's position, kind of voicing what I think they're thinking.
You know, it's all that VeggieTales.
It's all the
in your
VeggieTales
head,
stuff. Oh,
and
my
then-
other one. I feel that in the depths of my heart without even knowing what my Enneagram number is. It's because Enneagram is from the devil, kids.
But you're definitely like a 9-wing 8, I would say.
I wouldn't know.
Nine-wing
I'm
eight.
Drew Johnson.
9-wing
God
8.
knows me as something more than a number from a cult.
Well, that's
Somebody mentions
unfortunate.
1989, and apparently I yelled out, "That's the year when Taylor Swift was born."
So I hear you're a big Taylor Swift fan.
Not by choice. I have daughters and a minivan and road trips. That's how I know all her albums.
Wow.
Except the latest one, which I refuse to listen to.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
You know
Any
that
reason?
navigational lady
Nope.
on your phone that tells you what to do like you're married? Again, that doesn't need
So,
explanation.
Are you just comparing her to your wife?
Yeah, like, what other woman can tell me what to do, and I'll just listen to whatever she says and go, okay.
Oh, okay.
The navigational
okay. That's
lady.
not as bad as I was
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah.
That was good.
Celebrate Christmas like a good pagan.
A good pagan holiday.
It's a purely pagan holiday.
Yeah.
I wish we would celebrate Advent and then the pagan winter festival like they do in Europe, which is great. Separate them out.
Wow, the more you know. Well, that was wonderful. And you can look forward to quotes just like this when you take a Dr. Drew Johnson course. It's fine. Anyways, so that was some great wisdom, I feel
thanks.
like. Underneath all those tweets, there was like a nugget of wisdom. And I know we all want to tap into that. So right now, I'm going to introduce a new segment called Dear Dr. Johnson, where you can get your deepest, darkest secrets answered. Well,
Wait.
sorry, questions answered about life. That did not make sense. But you guys understand me.
Oh, is this where I'm supposed to spill the tea about what I know about students?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're going to cut to the first one right now.
Hey kids, I'm Dr. Drew Johnson. I'm here to give you some turgid advice on how to live life in quarantine and otherwise. So I have some of your questions here, and I'll just take them one at a time. See how this goes. Oh, handwritten. This is nice. What are the moral implications of wearing fedoras? None. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Hope they're all that easy. What is the meaning of life? I think the standard answer given at this point is 42. Okay. Got just a few more to work through here. Best guy house for a ring by spring. Best girl house. That's clearly going to be Lewis for the best guy house for a ring by spring. And not just because I'm the house advisor there, but because those are genuinely mature and ready to marry young men. Stable stock. Best girl house is a little bit trickier because it's 1 out of 6. I'd say it's a hybrid of somewhere between Barton and Thatcher. Just because most of my FA, I found this out after the fact that almost all of my FAs are Barton and Thatcher is our sister house. Okay, no bias. I'll take these questions with all the seriousness they require. This is a long one, so bear with me. Dear Dr. Johnson, I don't know how to tell my roommate that I simply can't stand the fact that he never cleans a single thing in the apartment. I've reached the conclusion that my roommate believes that I am his mother here to pick up his messes and give him constant affirmation. What should I do? Well, I think what you need to do Well, here's a tactic I'm using with my roommates. I refuse to clean the kitty litter or take out the trash, and I just watch it pile as high as it gets. It's spilling out on the floor. And then at some point, you use that as an object lesson, as a moment for a, what do they call it, defining the relationship kind of conversation. And nothing helps you define the relationship than the smell of fetid trash, pouring out on the floor, rotten chicken, Chick-fil-A gone bad, that what have you. All right. Who is your favorite student? Easy. All right. Last question. Oh, she or he knows who they are. Hey, Dr. Johnson, my roommates are great, but one of them is scared of my gnomes and doesn't want me to put them around the apartment. How should I get him over this? Well, thank you, Deb. So I think they're referring, I don't know, are these the actual gnomes? Okay, so these are the actual gnomes in question. So one thing I learned from my degree in psychology is called aversion therapy. What your roommate has is developed an aversion to gnomes. And the way you deal with this is kind of slowly but surely. As Ho Chi Minh said of the United States, like water over the stone, we will wear them down slowly. So maybe you don't introduce all the gnomes, right? This is like gnomes en masse here. This is too much, right? Who wouldn't be freaked out by this? You walk in a room in the middle of the night, you just see these sitting there. Anybody would maybe not control their bladder at that point. So maybe take one of the small, more friendly gnomes and work it right next to their pillow while they're sleeping so they can get a sense of the smell. They roll over and their waking eyes crack open to this cute little guy down here on the right. And then work your way up to another gnome, maybe hanging out at breakfast. And then eventually that aversion will be overcome. There's going to be some trial and error. You might have some interventions with student development at some point along the way, but you just have to keep pushing through because reconciliation is the theme of this year's interregnum. All right, power to the people. That's all I have for now.
All right, and we are back. That was great, Dr. Johnson.
Okay.
I learned a lot about myself in those questions.
So did I. What is happening?
So, Dr. Johnson, I hear you have a book coming out.
I do.
You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, it's kind of like my big, what I've been arguing for years in various other books, but it's like the big one where it puts it all together called Biblical Philosophy, where I'm arguing that the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament combined are a particular style of philosophical thought that is distinct from the Greco-Roman tradition, distinct from the Egyptians and the Hittites and the Mesopotamians in general. And that there's an intellectual world in the Bible that is often overlooked. And it's actually, most ancient Near Eastern scholars are like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. They've actually been arguing this as well. It's Christians and biblical scholars that are a little resistant to it, but I've got a big slap-down argument that I think at least basically works. People will tell me how I've gotten it wrong, and I'll listen to them and correct as I go, but I had to throw a big book out there to get that on the table. So.
Yeah. And you guys can look forward to reading that in another one of Dr. Drew Johnson's courses.
I won't assign it.
Really?
So, no. I typically don't assign, but every once in a while I'll assign one of my books, but it's very rare. So.
Well, when does it come out?
In 2021 sometime.
2021.
Yeah.
Well,
it's done. It's just in the gears of the publisher. So.
Amazing. Wow, that's great. Well, any last nuggets of wisdom you'd like to give the freshmen out there in quarantine, preferably in another language, since you do speak multiple languages?
Oh, yeah, no, I think if I want to say, I couldn't say in Portuguese, or definitely not Spanish. But I think they're kind of fortunate. I was talking to my kids about this, that, what happens typically is you come to New York and you're just thrown into all this stuff and it's frenetic and crazy and everybody's going crazy. And they have this unique advantage this year to just sit around, get to know their roommates really well, chill, watch the lame NSO stuff on TV.
Just like this show.
Yeah, like this. I mean, how bored do you have to be if you're tuning in and watching this right now, right?
Yikes.
But it's kind of a soft, it's kind of what we, the faculty in student development, have always wanted, is this soft landing that's calm and then, get social and okay, so Zoom is not so fun, but Zoom is where you're going to actually get to see people's faces because the rest of the time it's going to be in mask. So there's all these hidden, potentially really good things happening this year.
Some brutal honesty from Dr. Johnson.
Just normal honesty.
All right, well, thanks for being here. Thanks for being a guest on our little show.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, although we cannot see you, I'm sure you are glad to see us today. Seriously though, thank you for watching. A few final reminders for you. Number one, please follow King's Cinema Society on Instagram for updates on the show and for when the new episodes are getting posted. That's at King's Cinema Society, putting the sin back in my society. Second thing you need to do is follow the King's Council on Instagram as well. What's awesome about the King's Council is they're going to tell you everything you need to know about getting through the quarantine. This is community events, it's all the new stuff for freshmen, so make sure you're please following them over there and participating in our community, although we are still socially distanced and quite virtual.
Yes, that we are.
Finally, for the end credits, we've still got the 5-second videos that you need to be that you need to be submitting. This doesn't have to be you and your roommates dancing in your apartment. It can be anything, any 5-second clip of you and your roommates in your apartment. Just submit it over on the council Instagram, and we'll put it in the credits, and you'll be there, which will be really, really cool. So, thank you, and this is us signing off.